Welcome back to another book talk with Tracy. I'm super excited today to be talking to you about the second book in the Neighbours series called Keeping Up with the Neighbours. You can see that it's had a couple of different covers there. This is the most recent refreshed version, a little bit more contemporary, but it's certainly the same book, and it's a book about Jed Malloy and the whole Malloy clan. As I mentioned in my first talks about the first book in the series, Jed was a minor character. He came from Newfoundland, and he was throughout the book, but he just came to be so endearing, I suppose, and an important part that I decided he needed his own book. He comes from a really large family, 9 siblings. And so I decided, you know what, I'm going to write a book about them. They're going to come visit, or they're going to move to Calgary with him. And it's just going to be really cool. So that's where this book came from. It's just was inspired by the character Jed Malloy that appeared in that first book. It says, "Look out! The Malloy family have taken over the neighborhood, starting with Jed, whom we met in Neighbours Series 1. Jed is a down-home boy from Newfoundland who's a bit rough around the edges, but his generous heart makes him the first to lend a helping hand. His colorful and sometimes raucous siblings, Bo, Reba, Pip, Will, and Zeb, join him one by one in the western Canadian city of Calgary, Alberta. There's plenty of laughter, romance, and a few surprises as the Malloy clan get together. In the midst of the twists and turns, a greater love than any of them expected comes to call. The love that only God can give." And I think that's an important point to maybe start with, is that it is a contemporary Christian romance. And where the first book, the Christian theme ran throughout but wasn't really in the forefront, whereas in this case that whole sense of redemption is really important for the story, because as it says, he's a little rough around the edges, as all of the Malloy clan, and so some of them coming to Christ was kind of an important part of the story. However, I will say that they love to drink, they do love to party, they love to fight and wrestle, and so there is sort of that rough element running through it as well. But I think it makes it like I said, it's kind of endearing, and certainly it really highlights the fact that God can take anybody and use anybody, for sure. So the book itself is written in a series of sort of novella-length segments, episodes, I call them, similar to the first book. And each one focuses on a separate character, a family member in this case. So, of course, we start with Jed, who's the character from the first series. He lives in the apartment building with Lester Tibbet and some of the other characters that we met in the first book. But we dig a little bit deeper into Jed. One of the things, he's got some hang-ups, and one of the things is he drinks too much. He's probably an alcoholic. As the oldest son in the Malloy clan, he's always felt a sense of duty to stick up for his family, very family oriented and very loyal in that regard. But things haven't always worked out for him in the love department, and in fact, he thinks he doesn't need that anyways, that's just that's for sissies or whatever. But in fact, as the book, as the story unfolds, we sort of see that softer side of him, and that maybe he really, is wishing to find that special someone. But some of his own hang-ups and things are kind of getting in the way. I'm going to just read a little tiny bit here, because if you know anything about Newfoundland, It's the far eastern province in Canada. It's an island. Well, I guess Labrador is part of the mainland, but it has a very unique culture with deep Celtic roots. And certainly a lot of people from Newfoundland have a very strong accent. I didn't mention it the first time in the book talks with about the first book, but the first episode of that book was actually made into an audiobook by the regular publisher. And man, we had a really difficult time trying to get that accent right. You know, the actor who was reading that chapter, I had to send him all kinds of samples and things because it is a very unique accent. It's a little bit Irish, but not really. It has a lot of its own flavor. And I have visited Newfoundland, and you go to different parts of the province, and it's very distinct in different areas as well. So another thing is that they have developed this vocabulary. There's a lot of words that are unique that most mainlanders don't even have a clue what they mean, So if you're from the Rock, it's kind of like you have your own secret code, your own secret language in a lot of ways. And I have lots of friends, and man, sometimes it's so entertaining when they get together and they start speaking their Newfie-ese or whatever you want to call it. It's just, you could hardly understand what they're saying, but it's so entertaining. And there seems to be this sense of humor that runs throughout people from the province. I don't want to be stereotypic, but it's true. Like, there's just a real sense of pride in where they're from, but also not taking themselves too seriously. So one of the hallmarks is, you drop your H's. TH is usually a D sound, and some of these other things. So I'm going to do my best. I probably will totally murder it because I haven't really got it right. So this is Jed speaking to his friend Lester about his siblings who've come to visit. You got that right, boy. I've been trying, but it ain't easy. Not Bo so much. He's the quiet one of the bunch, if you can call any Malloy quiet. But now, Zeb, we always did like to wrestle, me and Zeb, but I don't remember him being so strong last time we tried it. I could always whoop him, but things is changing, by. That's for sure. All right, I'll probably stop there because I'm not doing a very good job. But as I said, if I ever have this made into an audiobook, there might be some challenges because it's I need to get a native-born Newfoundland speaker to do the reading, I think, in order to make it authentic. In any case, it's so much fun. I love this book. I mean, I say that about all of them, but it's such a fun book because, in my mind, I'm picturing these big, rough, they like to swear, they like to, wrestle, they like to drink. And yet they're so soft. Like, there's such a soft heart. And so that, in essence, is who Jed is, the oldest Malloy sibling. Now, 3 of the siblings, there are 9, don't really appear. They appear in one chapter briefly that takes place in Newfoundland. 3 sisters.